All right. So, what's up, y'all? This is Osirez, and today we're going to take a look at Tyranny, which is a very in-depth game. And since it's so in-depth, and I have a very squirrel brain, I invited a friend here to help me take a look at the game, HexDSL. Tell them who you are, Hex.
Hello, everybody. I'm HexDSL. I make first look videos and rambly thoughts on YouTube, all Linux themed. And yeah, that's basically, you can get my stuff on hexdsl.co.uk.
And the link will be definitely in the description somewhere or on the video because I do the editings.
I don't. That's also on my channel. You're getting no editing.
Straight off the cuff. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna take a look at Tyranny, which comes from Paradox Interactive. I did get a review key to be clear with everybody. What about you, Hex?
I didn't get a review key, but I also didn't pay for the game. It was gifted to me from someone in our Discord community, which I definitely appreciate because I am very, very skinned all the time.
All the Steam games.
Well, I don't even buy that in the games. I just waste my money on bills and stuff.
Yeah, this pesky bills. I know how that goes. So let's just recap what Paradox is because I think they're pretty important to the Linux community nowadays.
Yeah, interactive, not to be confused with Paradox because you got Paradox as a publisher and Paradox as a developer. And as a publisher, they've had a phenomenal year. I mean, they've had a brilliant year. This year they've got Stellaris, which is pretty much on everyone's game of the year list. I think I don't know anybody who hasn't played it and loved it. And even the DLC that first was considered quite weak is still their weakest DLC. Has been better than most people's best DLC. And then this year they also released the Pillars of Eternity DLC, the White March Part 2, which I've heard amazing things about. And apparently that DLC is as long as Tyranny. You know, it's like a huge piece of DLC. Yeah, so I think this year Paradox have had an amazing year as a publisher. And I think they really should be focused on that. But they did actually develop Stellaris, and yeah, that's it's got the best soundtrack of this decade, I think, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. What I like about it, Stellaris, not to get into it too much, is that it has that soundtrack and gives you that like Star Trek captain feel. Like you feel like you're a general of a space army or something. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's one of the only game soundtracks I listen to when I'm not playing the game, because a lot of game soundtracks, you'll put the game on, you'll be like, yeah, this is how the game sounds. But Stellaris, I was like, I'll put that shit on in my car. I feel like I'm epic driving down the road with spaceships and shit. It's amazing. It's a really good, it's a great soundtrack and it's a great game. So yeah, this year, they've had 3 massive titles, Stellaris, the Pillars of Eternity release, which wasn't that big sales wise, but the Pillars of Eternity players, it was really well received. And now Tyranny on top of that. And, weirdly, Tyranny is probably the shortest game in that bunch as well.
So do you know anything about Paradox Interactive's game engine? Is it custom or what?
Yeah, from what I understand, and this is just what I know from the Steam forums and stuff, because I have no contacts at Paradox, they created the engine originally for Pillars of Eternity, and then they realized that it's such a great storytelling engine, they can just spin it off to other titles. So now they're hopefully going to be making more RPGs just using that engine. Just literally just take the engine, reskin it, and put the story in, which means there's a lot less development time, a lot more storytelling time in the development cycle, which is really good, I think. Good idea.
Which explains why they're able to port it to Linux. They might have even built it with that in mind. So that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get on to the game at hand. Tyranny. Players will, according to Paradox, this is a brief description. Players will experience the New World Order under the Overlord in a reactive role-playing game, interacting with the populace as a powerful fate binder. In the Overlord's forces, roaming the lands to inspire loyalty or fear as they bring control to the last holdouts of the tiers. Sounds cool.
Yeah, that's not how I describe it though, because I read that and I was like, that sounds awesome. But I think they've undersold it, because for anyone who doesn't know the game that well, Tyranny is a game where the bad guys have won. You know, the bad guys, there's no confusion here. The guy that's in charge of the planet, he's essentially a god. Right, you're not going to win. There's no one's telling you you're going to win. All you can do is manage the underlings. You know, so as the fate binder, your job is to deliver his messages to the people, and you have a position where you don't have a rank in the army, but you command a lot of respect within the armies. So when you go to an area, you can't go, I'm a general, do as I'm told, but you go, I'm the fate binder. You need to listen to me, because if people find out you ignored me, you're going to get your ass kicked. So it's the game where you're essentially the bad guy. So this region is free. And you come into this region as the fate binder, trying to sort out the mess that the armies have made in order to conquer the region. You are the bad guy, and that's where the game sets itself apart from every other RPG.
That's really we're going to get more into the story in a bit, but that's really what confused me to start with, was the fact that you're the bad guy. And they're like, okay, we'll get into that.
That's a whole separate story.
Yeah. So what's your brief overview of the game?
Okay, so without getting too in depth right now, the game does the world setting. It's created this wonderful world where, like, the game takes you through this one little like country essentially inside the world, this one little area of a country that's not conquered, but like the greater world it talks about is the thing that's interesting. Much like with Star Wars, like the story's one thing, but it's the rest of the universe that's been created that sucks you in. I think with Tyranny, it's that implied greater story, and you feel like you're seeing like a little itty bit of this massive story that's happening, and really that's where the key is for me. That's what sucked me in, is the greater world you're in. You're just a cog in that big machine, and that's sort of daunting, but at the same time it's like, I've got a job at hand, let's go. Yeah,
I agree. Matter of fact, I would almost argue that the world is better than the story.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely. Yeah, it's the greater world that is like, you're just enjoying a piece of that rather than like the whole story. And then it's that's what drives the conversation, though, because you'll find like a great general in the army and you'll be pumping him for information because you're like, I want to get every drop of this world's lore that I can out of this dude before I move on. Whereas most games you're like, don't care, next bit.
Exactly. While we're touching on that, let's get into the story. I think that this game does a great job of telling a story as a whole. It's actually interesting how it's constructed. It's like each mission tree is very linear, but because you can jump from tree to tree, there's a lot of times where it doesn't. They do a great job of not making the game feel expected. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like it's like we were saying earlier, the story itself, like, even though it's like an RPG and it's got a lot of scope to it, with all RPGs, there's like a lot happening at the beginning, and the closer you get to the end, the tighter this tree gets, until there's only going to be like 2 or 3 actual outcomes of the whole game. But what this game does is you kind of know where you're going from the start. You kind of have this really great idea of where you're heading. I haven't finished the game yet, but you have a great idea of where you're heading. So rather than giving you like this one tree of options, they give you all these different missions that you sort of access at different times depending what your choices are in the game. And then each sort of individual tree of the story is experienced like a small story of its own, almost like a TV episode, essentially. So even though the game is probably quite linear, because you experience it in seemingly natural order, so you don't ever feel like you're being pushed in one direction.
Right.
It gives you this idea that it's a grander story than it is, which is all part of the world they've created, I think.
I think part of that is also there's some there's a feeling of unexpectedness in the game. So there's like you have just like most RPGs, you have dialogue, and in the dialogue you have options on how you want to respond to that dialogue. And on most RPGs, you can pretty much say if you respond with A, B, or C, X, Y, and Z is going to happen, like literally really unexpectedly. This game does a really good job of not giving you the expected, because you might get the expected response, but somebody else in the game will then have a different response to you.
Yeah, I don't know how you found your playthrough, but in mine it's like what you have with each character, you have like fear and respect, or like or wrath and likability, or whatever it's called. So you have these constant meters go, but each character's got like their own different categories. Like in most characters it's loyalty and fear, and then but that's not the standard. Like lots of characters can have different categories, and because you've got a group of people with you, and whoever you're talking to, you can go, okay, well, I think you're a dick. You know, you can make the decision to say, like, I hate this character. And then you can lose respect with that character or gain wrath with that character. But then one of the people you're with is then pissed off with you. And then the other person you're with is like, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. So every dialogue choice is a balancing act of, when I make this decision, how is it going to affect the people I'm with and the people I'm interacting with? And you constantly, every decision is going to piss off someone. There's never a conversation where everyone's happy with you. And I think that's a testament to the game, where like, you don't just randomly go, oh, yeah, I'll just run through this conversation. You stop at every step and go, okay, what are the ramifications of saying this? How will they feel when I say this? And how will my other characters feel? And that, again, adds a layer of sort of internalization to the story that you don't get in a lot of RPGs.
I would most liken to this to Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, which I think is one of the better games of RPG games of probably all PC time. But in Knights of the Old
that was also developed by Obsidian, wasn't it? The people who developed this, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was developed by Obsidian, the same people who actually developed Tyranny, because it was published by Paradox, but developed by Obsidian.
Correct. Except for in Knights of the Old Republic, it's very clear what good and evil is, because that's part of the Star Wars paradigm, right? But this game, what makes this game different is there's really no good and evil. Well, because everything's evil.
Yeah. Well, it's just like managing, like you come into a situation as the Fate Binder, your job is to resolve. I mean, even though they haven't said it, the Fate Binder's job is essentially to resolve it. When there's a problem, you just resolve the disagreement. That seems to be the job, the Fate Binder's role. And I think it's just a case of managing a messed up situation all the time. So you walk in, there's no right answer. It's just like the angle I'm going for with this playthrough, how can I manage this situation for the most benefit for me as the Fate Binder and the minimum loss of life or conflict is like, you know, so it's a constant balancing act. And I do like what you said about there's no right or wrong. It's just other people's opinions of you. Right. Whereas in the Star Wars game, it was a case of Paragon or Renegade, was it? Or something like that they had, or Light and Dark or something.
Light and Dark.
And that's like, yeah, that's like the game telling you whether you're good or bad. And this game's like, you're basically the invading force. You're the Nazis coming into Europe. You're not the good guy. So how are you going to deal with this? Are you going to be a tyrant, or are you going to try your best to make the right call for the people all the time? And that's where it is. It's just dealing with messed up situations. I'd liken it to The Witcher in that regard.
Oh wow, that's a big claim. The Witcher is one of my favorite RPGs.
No, I mean, like, yeah, but The Witcher does, like, in The Witcher, when you go and talk to someone, it's like there's no clear like good guy bad guy route. It's just messed up situation. How do I deal with it? And this game takes the same approach, where it's not judging your actions. The other characters are judging your actions individually, not the game as a whole.
So this game has what is called a Conquest Mode, which is basically, it's like the end game, but at the beginning, you read through some narratives or story choices right after you make your character, and the decisions that you make during this stage, post character creation, or this narrative, will kind of steer you in a direction of how you actually start the game, whether you're on one side or the other, or what the narrative landscape looks like as you begin the game. Did you actually do the conquest, or?
Yeah, it's weird actually, because like we've got a Google Doc in front of us, obviously, while we talk about this to keep us on track. And it's like you've listed the conquest mode in the good section, where I've listed it in the bad section. The conquest mode, for your second playthrough, when you understand, and this game is the sort you're going to play through multiple times, because you're going to want to see the story from the angle of the people you pissed off this playthrough. You want to see it from their side. And in your first playthrough, as it's asking me these things, I don't have a greater understanding of this world. So when it asks me what I think of this faction, I'm like, I don't know. They're purple. I like purple. Let's side with them, you know? Because then you don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And it's only when you start playing the game that you suddenly go, oh, I see the decisions I made then have messed this up for me now. If I'd have made better decisions in Conquest Mode, I wouldn't be dealing with this messed up crap right now. So I think almost feel like the first time you play a new game, the game should go, hey, there is this Conquest Mode, but really don't do it. You'd be better off skipping it and like doing this instead. Whereas your second playthrough, you're going to get so much joy out of like messing with things in a grand scheme. But you are right in what you said. It's like the end game at the beginning, because when most games you get to the end and then you look back on all the messed up decisions you made. In this game, you make the messed up decisions, and then you're in the game dealing with those decisions, which is just brilliant.
That's an interesting perspective you have on the conquest mode, because the way I took the conquest mode was I I went through the narrative or the story choices, and I just basically went off of whichever role. Because I know in a role playing game, it's usually binary. You're gonna go one way or the other. So I did whatever I felt was good, because I usually play good first and then play it through bad. But you're right. It is a bit confusing to start with, but this is definitely something I don't think I've ever seen in any other game. Which
no, I haven't. It reminded me of playing Risk or something. It was like a game of Risk going on, RPG Risk it was. But yeah, I think I hated it my first playthrough. I was just annoyed by it. But I really think, thinking back now, that second playthrough, I'm gonna be going, all right then. These guys really wear me up. I'm gonna make sure I make it hard for them, because it seems I don't know till I play a second time. But it seems like it's going to make a big impact. So if I go through with a certain agenda in mind, I'm going to come out dealing with that situation in such a different way to the first playthrough, and that's great.
Yeah. So let's talk about the characters real quick. I found that the companions were well fleshed out and very unique from each other. And there's a good amount of backstory details, quirks about each one of them to make them feel like individuals. What do you think about the companions and the other NPCs in the game?
I really liked all of them. Because I'm just over 15 hours into the game. I know you're a lot further than me. Because and probably I should say as well, the reason I'm not as far through as I'd like to be is because I only play this game when I can savor it. I don't want distractions. I want to be like, this is what I'm doing this evening. So which is my spend time, problem to find time to play. But the characters, I like all of them. There's not one character that I felt was a tack on, a bolt on, or pointless. They all seem to be well fleshed out people in this world, and they all seem to have an actual history.
They don't feel like general archetypes.
Yeah, they're not. They're all individual people, and they all have stronger feelings politically, which makes them all difficult to have in your party. I almost get to points where I'm like, I'm going for this mission now. I'm going to do some bad things, and you're like, I don't want to check like Lantry with me. He's going to be all like writing it down and stuff. And you're like, I don't really want him I don't want him to scrabble this shit. I need to murder some people on this outing, and I need someone who's not going to judge me too harshly. So you do take that into account. But I also find that when I've got my group together, I almost don't want to swap them out for different people, because I'm really interested how them individuals are going to respond to what's happening. And yeah, it's like a meta game of its own, sort of seeing how the characters respond to what you're doing.
You're right. I had the same issue. I really felt like I was being I don't even know, being watched over by these other characters, and it really it literally bothered me to have them in the party, knowing that I'm about to go do some really messed up stuff.
It's like, I'll just leave you all here. I'm gonna go and kill a dude. It's just like, but that said though, don't you think that's so unique? Because usually in games you don't care about the characters. You just just pick people. You go, you're powerful for this, you're powerful, and you go, I want a healer, I want a tank, or you make yourself a holy trinity of followers in most games. Where this game, you're picking on personality more than skill set, which is again something that you do in the game without realizing it's a feature of the game until you're 15 hours in or whatever.
I have to ask you because the Beast Woman in the party was the most unique thing I've seen, and for some reason she has teats.
Oh, she's fantastic. Yeah. As soon as I found her, I was like, you're not only in my party, you're my Chewie. You're with me now till the end. There's no way you're leaving my party. You're there now. You and Lantry are my two bros. You're staying. It's like you're not going anywhere.
Speaking of teats, so the game has a certain tone of raunchiness about it that was really, really cool. Did you notice that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got. I think it's written within. I think the writers have gone, okay, so we live in this world. Let's write from the perspective of these characters, which is again an interesting way of writing. But they're like, this is a world where they're either at war or oppressing people. So they're either at war with people until they win, and they always win. And then they're oppressing these people. And then if you don't want to be oppressed, you have to join the army and oppress people. Right. So like the perspective of this world is everybody just wants to get laid and kill something. Like that's how you stay alive in this world. You just go get laid and kill something. I'd liken it to Robert E. Howard's work on Conan. It's like that world where it's just war and debauchery constantly for thousands of years. And it's just brilliant. And yeah, it does get a bit raunchy at times. There's a constant like undercurrent of everybody's having sex and judging each other for their choices, and that's pretty cool.
That's actually what I was alluding to about the teats, because there's a you actually get a party member who's, I don't know how old she is. I think she's like 15 or 16. And there is some sexual dialogue between her and the other characters that at times gets pretty weird. Did you see that?
Again, I think that's I don't know the exact dialogue you're talking about, but I know about the character, and I think that's partly grown-up writing, because they're not writing to be politically correct. They're writing from the point of view of this messed up world, and in the context of this world, that's perfectly reasonable, because this is a world where people get raped and murdered regularly, and it's like within the context of the world, it's clever writing. I'm not going to say I can agree with the morals of the game, but that's the point. That's the point the writers want you to get to. In real life, I'm not going to be the Fate Binder, but in the game, I'm enjoying the crap out of being the Fate Binder.
I actually admired the fact that they took that leap and did they just went out on a limb and put what actually fit into the world. And
they're not trying to please you. They're trying to make a world, and that's as a fan of writers and stories, I really appreciate that. It is really smart writing. I can't think of many other RPGs that have impressed me with the writing. And like you said, comparing it to Star Wars, the Knights of the Old Republic 2, that is a phenomenal game, but it is written almost for a 90s audience, where there's clear-cut right and wrong, and you can choose to be good or bad. And I think even down to the world, that idea that there is no right and wrong, it's just dealing with it, even goes through to the characters' dialogue and the interactions with the characters, and that's awesome.
All right, so we've noted some good points and harped on it, and the game is awesome. We can agree on that, but let's point out some of the not so good things about it.
Before we go on to that though, I just want to the thing that I find is interesting, and the thing that I think sort of informs the rest of the game is this concept of when I play a video game, I like to be the good guy. I'm always the white knight,
Me too.
I'm always the guy on the horse who comes in to save the damsel. I don't play Grand Theft Auto because I don't want to be a bad guy. I only attracted to games where I'm the good guy. But with this game, it's there are things to remember. If you have to deliver the edict that Kratos has given you, because if you don't, he's going to kill you, and he's essentially going to nuke the region of the planet without a second. He's just going to go, bam, everyone's dead, and not give it. And he's going to go and eat his cereal and watch telly. He won't give any craps at all about what he's just done. So he's serious, and he's all powerful. So you have to do as you're told, otherwise you will die. Right. So because you're a cog in a larger machine, even if you want to be the good guy, you have to be the bad guy to do that. And I think being the good guy while being the lead, while being the Fate Binder for the evil army, is something I've never seen before in a role-playing game. And it makes you instantly feel comfortable with doing horrific stuff. It makes you feel I am murdering all these people, and that's bad, but look at the respect I'm getting. I'm going to use that respect to stop the world getting nuked. And, that is something that's just such a unique aspect of gameplay. And it's so smart the way after a while, you don't feel like a bad guy. You feel like a caretaker who's just constantly treading water trying to deal with stuff. Right. And I think that's a point that this game's unique feature that makes it stand out from the crowd.
Oh, indeed. Like we said before, I would liken this to a really in-depth book. And that's how it really plays out to me, is a really well-made and well-written. But
I've said it before, but it reminds me of The Witcher. It reminds me of what they've done in The Witcher 3. I know it's not quite the scope of The Witcher, and The Witcher's got that third-person immersion going on, where this is like an isometric story game. But the scope of the story is, the last time I saw this level of scope was The Witcher.
I would agree with that. I would say the real difference is that The Witcher is about you, the individual, and what you're doing, whereas this game is about, as we said, the overarching story of the land, and not really about you. As a matter of fact, I don't even really think I got the impression of who I really am, except for people reacting to me.
You don't really have a name. You're Fate Binder. Your character doesn't really. I mean, your character doesn't have, essentially, he's nameless, because everywhere you go, it's your Fate Binder. They don't see you; they see the uniform.
Right.
It's, you know, they see the insignias that tell them who you are. They don't care about you as an individual. They care. They don't want to annoy the Fatebinder because that would work out badly for them in the long run. While you, as the Fatebinder, know that no one care about you. You know, you're living the lie. No one cares what the Fatebinder thinks in the higher ups. They just like go deal with it. They don't care how you do it. But the people below you think that you have a key position and it's guarded and protected, where really it's not. You know, different to a police officer.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we going on to the bad now?
Yeah, let's talk about some bad things. All right, what do you got first?
The first thing, and this is a tiny thing because I love this game. I'm a massive fan of this game, and I'm looking forward to finishing my first playthrough so I can start my second. You know, I'm a fan, but if it asks me to sign into my Paradox account one more time, every time I load the game, it's like, oh, we've forgotten your details. Sign again. You sign in. And then you log out and you go back. It's like, oh, I'm signing. And you want to sign in because you get in-game items rewarded to you for signing in.
Yeah.
So you want to sign in, but it's like every time, and it's only a tiny thing, but it's just so annoying.
I'd agree with that. I've had to re-sign back in, and I use LastPass to make some random password. So so it made some random like 12-digit password, and I'm like, and then it won't let you copy and paste it from the browser to the game. I'm like, oh, this is stupid.
I use NPass, not LastPass, because NPass is offline. I prefer that.
Yeah.
But I use NPass to do the exact same job as LastPass. So I went, as soon as I realized it was that, I was like, I'm just gonna go and change my password. And I changed it so it's super easy to remember, just because I had to sign in so much. But it is nice how they give you in-game items, but it's just the hoop you have to jump through every time. So annoying.
All right, so one of the other bad things I had was even though the game does a great job of giving you this overarching story, I didn't really feel attached to the individuals in the world, because most of them are nameless NPCs who are just like walking around.
Yeah, outside of your companion group, with the exception of the generals of each of the factions you're dealing with, everyone's just a dude in uniform.
Right.
But it is a bad thing, you're right, but I kind of feel like that's the world, isn't it? Like, they are just enemies. You don't need to know they are. But yeah, I agree. I would like a bit more of the characters to be fleshed out outside of your group.
Yeah, it's definitely, and then go back to The Witcher. It definitely doesn't feel like, you know, in The Witcher, everybody you encounter, even the nameless people, kind of have some quirky dialogue or something to tell, or they feel like individuals. And this game is just people on the ground.
Yeah, that is, yeah. And then the other one is, we've already talked about it, but that opening, that what was it called? The Conquest Mode opening thing. Yeah. I had to list that in a bad section because I was just like, the first, I could, again though, on the second playthrough, I'll have nothing but love for it, I'm sure. But on the first playthrough, I was like, this is so boring. It's like I don't know, playing Crusader Kings the first time. You're just like, I don't know what it means. Click, 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 click. But yeah, the first time you should have been guided away from it the first time. I absolutely believe that.
I completely agree. I think it should have done a better job explaining because when I first launched it, I didn't even know what it was trying to do. Like, but once I figured out what it was trying to do, I was like, oh, that's kind of brilliant. But I wish I'd have known that while I was doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just the first time. It's just because you've got no reference point. So when it says like you're gonna camp outside this spire, I'm like, I don't care. What's a spire? You know.
Yeah,
and then the
exactly.
second time you could be like, oh, a spire early on, that'll be awesome. It'll give me access to my kingdom, and and you can see how it's going to reflect. But I suppose the argument would be that that your character doesn't know how it's going to pan out any more than you do. Just so
we're clear, you don't have to do the Conquest Mode. You can do what it's like a quick wizard, start, a quick start type of deal.
But don't you think that like that's kind of like, as a new player with a game, the very first time you play a game, you want to experience it all. So of course it's gonna go easy mode or the full experience. So you're always, as a new player, you're gonna go, give me it all. Where really, it should guide you towards that wizard. It should guide you towards easy mode the first playthrough.
Oh, I wholly agree with that. It's a little thing because you can always go back, but it's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So you got another one? You got another one?
Let's go with loading screens. There's plenty of loading screens in this game because
so many.
Modern games do a really good job of hiding loading screens except for Deus Ex. Oh my god! But anyways,
it's a whole separate video.
Yeah, but loading screens because it has separate like cities and towns and camps and stuff. You end up traveling a lot.
And you're constantly jumping from one to the other, especially when you get your spire network going. You can teleport more. You constantly jumping, and every time you enter a room, it's a small load screen. You change area, big load screen. And these are map backgrounds with 3D sprites on top. At the end of the day, this is an advanced Baldur's Gate. Why the hell can't it preload all this stuff?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So what's next? What do we got up next?
Oh, teleporting, right? Sorry, my phone just decided to beep all over the place. The teleporting, like you'll make an action, you'll go, okay, I want to make this decision in it right now. So and then you make a decision. So you click on it, it goes, okay, you go across the bridge. But it describes what's going to happen. You go, okay, your character fades out, the camera pans across, and you fade back in. You go, oh, the action was only written down. And you do feel a little bit like, again, Baldur's Gate did that, and it's like, we've come a long way. Can't you have like a little animation or like to give me some visual cue what's happening rather than just, oh, you're gonna do this now, fade out, fade in.
Well, that makes me wonder, since this engine was made for Pillars of Eternity, which I have not played a lot of, maybe the engine just isn't up to task for this style of storytelling play. It's more for like kill a ton of monsters in this area type of play.
I love killing monsters. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's probably a limitation of the engine. And although we praise them for reusing an existing engine to tell a new story, this is obviously a time when if they had more time or developers on the team, they might have actually done a small animation, because they do it in other places. There's a bit early on where there's a fortress being broke down. There's guys there with like a ram blasting it down, and they do that then with animation. It's very like you can't hold control. You've got no control. It takes it out your hands and it just shows you what's happening. So obviously the engine can do things that are out of the ordinary. But in this case, I think it's just a case of, because the game's experienced in so many different ways by different people, how many percentage of the players are going to experience these particular events, and is it worth spending the developer time? So yeah, there is that to it, but it's a little bit like, it takes you out of the game a little bit. You're quite immersed and quite into it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's fading out and fading in again. Yeah. Again, that's picking fault, because I still love the game. It's not like it's ruined my game for me.
Oh no! So far, all the things that we've listed they're not show breakers or things that make you say, "Oh my god, I can't play this anymore." They're little nicks and nags about the game.
But when a game is so good, the little nags and things that annoy you are like a bigger deal, because the game's so good. So when you have to go, oh, it's annoying that it does that, it is a bigger annoyance because the game's so good otherwise.
I agree. Yeah.
But the next one is. Can I do the next one?
Go ahead.
Can I?
Go for it.
Yeah. I call it the Who Said That book, where it's like, this only happened to me early on, but the UI is structured in not an unusual way, but like when you're having a conversation, there's one character each side of the screen, and after you've played for a few hours, this is obvious, right? When you've played for a few hours, you can go, okay, that's the person talking, that's the other person. I can see the two people I understand, and that's so obvious. But the first hour I played, I was like, who am I talking to? And it wasn't like, because there's a picture here. I don't know that's a member of my party, because I don't know who my party team are. The game doesn't do a great job of clearly going, like, this is the UI, this is what's going to happen, this is who's saying what. You sort of have to wing it. There's no tutorial for the UI, which is fine. And there are pop-ups and things, but who reads them? Who's going to read the pop-ups? You see a question mark, you just clear it. You don't read it. And for the first, I did find it a bit confusing exactly who was saying what to who, and then obviously as you play through the game you start realizing everyone's addressing the fate binder, because you're the most important person in any conversation usually, so they're all addressing you, they're not addressing each other, they're all addressing you, and it does become obvious after a while. But at first it's really quite like what who said what. I don't understand who's talking to who.
I would take that one further and say that not only was it confusing as to who's talking to who, but those little icons in the next to the dialogue that tells you who's talking, they're static, so they're not even 3D. They're not even moving, which I found to be quite I don't know. It's kind of off-putting. I don't know why it bothered me.
Yeah, because like as they're talking, you kind of like have them gesturing and stuff.
Yeah,
you could use an animated GIF for that. An animated GIF would do that.
Right.
Yeah, it is. They're very static, and like while you're reading dialogue, the game could have crashed for you. While you're reading dialogue, you wouldn't know. You got no visual cues. But yeah, it throws you. But at the same time, the game's so good and the story's so good, you almost forget all that after a while. But at first, it's jarring. I'm glad you agreed. I thought I was being stupid, to be honest.
No, I found it really like I don't even know. It was just really weird at first. But speaking of dialogue, this game has plenty and plenty of dialogue. I don't know if it's bad or good, but if you don't like reading, this is not for you.
Well, these are my big glasses, and I had to break out the big glasses for the dialogue because there's so much dialogue. I need the big glasses. Yeah, it's like my Kindle has less words in this game at times. Like seriously, I read a lot and I read quite quick. I read a book a week pretty much, so I'm not averse to reading, but I feel like just voice act a little bit, you know, just like because they do it at certain points. Like when you first meet a character, lines so you get a sense of the character, which is good writing and good development. But after that, they're the mute. They're just texting you the whole time through the game, and there's so much of it.
Well, when you get further in the game, there's more voice acting, but it's sporadic. Like I don't even know what triggers it because an important event may not have voice acting, and a non-important event, like you just like talking with your companions, has voice acting. It's really kind of weird. It's really.
I feel like. I get the impression that they was going to voice act a lot more, so they started with the companions. They was like, "We don't have enough money for this. Just stop, you'll be fine."
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, and at $34.99, I'm sure they could have paid for a few more voice actors. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I get too.
Yeah.
So what's your next complaint about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I've said the quest log. I found it. In fact, I'll say I found it because I've got used to it being a bit shitty. It's not like I've suddenly realized how to use it like I did with the dialogue system. But it's like the quest system. It's like you'll open it up and go, where do I go next? And there's like quests on the left, and then you go, okay, what's this one? And then it sort of gives you such vague pointers in the right direction. You're like, yeah, I don't know what that means. You know, the quest just be like, I don't know what you're talking about because I did know what you're talking about, and then I had some dinner and went to bed, and it's the next day now. I don't know what you're talking about. So, you know, the quest, I think the quest should have it should be constantly going, this is the next thing you need to do, buddy. This right here. We're just going to put a little star here. This is where you need to be going next. Because as it is, you end up reading a novel to remember where you are in the game between plays. And I just think the quest log, although functional, I think in 2016, I expect a bit more interactivity from the quest log. And that's probably the biggest complaint I've actually got with the game.
Not only is the quest log vague, like what the quest is, but I found myself not even knowing where to go at times.
Yeah, that's the problem I had. Like I'll do something, and I'll have usually at the end of like a larger quest tree where you've done a good piece of like the main quest line, and then you'll be standing there. It'll fade back in after the cutscene or after the conversation. You'll go, okay, where do I go now? You hit J for your quest log, and you bring it up, and you go, still don't know. And then you'll look on the map, and there'll be one area like flickering or like flashing. You'll go, okay, so I guess that's where I go next. You'll go there, and you'll realize, no, I've got to do something else first, then come here. And you find out you miss like a lot of stuff because the quest helper, the quest journal is a journal, not a helper. That's probably the best way of putting it. It literally is a diary, not a quest helper, which I kind of like. I'm in favor of that with MMOs. And there's this whole thing about they've made the games too easy, but this is a role play game. You know, this is a game where I'm not here for the fight. I'm here for the story, and you need to make accessing that story easier. And I think it's something they could probably fix with patches. I don't think it's even a major thing to fix. Right. But it does it is sort of the biggest bugbear I've got with the game.
I want to add in one more thing before we wrap this up. Did you actually use the I guess messaging system, which is a really unique and cool thing?
Yeah, once, like literally, and I was like, that's stupid, and I didn't. It's got this. It's hidden in like a menu inside a menu where you can write a letter to your higher ups, like send reports and stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, by sending this report, I'm just making the dialogue choices crappier later. I'm committing myself too early to dialogue here. But yeah, I have used it a couple of times, and it just feels like they need to make a bigger deal out of it to make it worthwhile using, and they need to tell us about it a lot sooner.
Yeah, so I'm not really even sure what the grand effects of using that is. The way they try to portray it is it seems like if you write these people, or the people back at the I don't know, the headquarters, that something will happen, or like you might affect your relationship with other people. But I haven't seen that come to fruition.
Well, I got the impression that like when you stand in court with your companions and the other generals there, and you're giving your report publicly, it might offend and affect your relationship with characters. Where if you send the letter, when you get to court, if you like, they haven't got to ask that question because you've written them. so you don't have to ask that question. So it'll affect your relationship with people because it's almost secret at this point. So I get that, like, it may affect it, but how and why?
Yeah,
like you said, it doesn't do a good job explaining that.
All right, so to wrap it up, according to Steam store pages of the time of this video, the game has 3 editions: Commander, Archon, Overlord. $45 US, $60 US, or $80 US. I have no idea why there's so many of them.
Yeah, for our European listeners, that's £34, £44, and £60, which is, wow, that's a lot of money for a game.
And it doesn't really list out what the differences are.
Yeah, it's not very much actually. It's like if you scroll down Steam and you hit the description thing. The basic one, it doesn't even matter what you get in that because it's the basic one. And then after that, you start adding features like you get a short story collection with a higher up one, and then you get like forum icons, which no one cares about. Let's be honest. One of them comes with the soundtrack. One of them comes with like desktop wallpapers. And it's all stuff that I don't think there's any point buying it higher up, like than the basic version, because the basic version comes with the whole story. But like even at the basic price of $34.99 over here. This game it's a reused engine. It's got virtually no major voice work outside of like casual voice actors. Now, what voice work there is good, by the way. I'm not criticizing the work they've done. They've done great work because there's just not enough of it.
Right.
$34.99. This game literally could have been DLC for Pillars of Eternity. I mean, it's better that it's not because it's now its whole separate franchise rather than being bolted on something else. But from a technical standpoint, this quite easily could have been, I don't know, 20 quid DLC.
Just so the listeners know, Tyranny, according to other people on the interwebs, is about a 30-hour game. Now, I have 30 hours in this game myself, and I don't feel like I'm near the end. But then again, I might just be a slow reader. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm doing the opposite, where I'm before I leave an area, I've looked at every single stone, and I don't leave an area till I've done everything as spoken. And like with dialogue choices, I'll try and string that out because I want as much as possible out of the game. So, and I'm only like I said, I'm only 15 hours into this game, and I'm already sort of blown away by it. But yeah, I feel like where I am now in the game at the 15-hour mark, to think I've only got another 15 hours left, I'm like, nah, there's a lot more than that left for me at this point.
It's good. So for the price over there, which you said was what, £34, £44, $45 US. It's 30-hour game. That I would say
pound an hour. Yeah.
I would say this is worth buying if you really like this sort of game. Really like, because this is definitely targeted towards the people who like Baldur's Gate or Knights of the Old Republic or that type of thing. So expect a slow arc story. Like it's going to take a while to actually get into what's going on here, or even understanding what the hell is even going on here. I don't think this is for the casual RPGer at this price, at least.
See, that's the thing. I really love this game. I love this game, and even if I had there's the same as me. I was gifted it. You got a review key. Neither of us paid our own money for this game, but I am so grateful I had the game. And if I had have paid full price for it, if I happened to have the cash when it came out and I paid full price, I would have felt like I had my money's worth. Because even at like £34, if you're gonna get 30 hours out of the game minimum, realistically, right? And that's if you're only gonna do one playthrough. And the game's designed for multiple playthroughs because you have different angles to come at the story from. So even though the single playthrough is 30 hours, I would have felt like I'd had my money's worth out of it. That said, if you've only got 30 quid in your wallet and you want to buy an RPG, Divinity Original Sin is going to give you a lot more game for your money and just as grand story. And it's like just as good a game. It's like it's not a worse game. It's just as good. Possibly better mechanically. It's got more going on and more voice acting. So if you can only buy one game, Divinity is the one I'd say buy.
I can't disagree with that. I have Divinity and I haven't even played it. But yeah,
I only played like 10 hours of Divinity, and it's really great.
I think this is a great game as a auxiliary pickup. I can't think of anything that's just like, there's nothing bad about the game. Like just, oh my god, this sucks. But
it's just really expensive what it is. Yeah,
and it's I feel like FPS games are something that everybody just gets into. I don't think I think RPG is more of a niche market, and I'd say for RPG people, this is a must play. If you like RPG
absolutely.
games, this is a must play game. Most definitely.
Yep. And even if you want a specific type of RPG, like you want this isometric Baldur's Gate, like modern Baldur's Gate vibe, Pillars of Eternity is the same price as this game, and that game's like 100 hours long. So even within Paradox's own catalog, it's not the best value for money. So yeah, Pillars of Eternity, same price, a lot more game, but potentially I really like this story, and I'm really sort of feel privileged to experience a story that's so well thought out. So the writing's on point, and I can't say Pillars writing is as good, but I haven't played enough Pillars to really say.
Before we get out of here, performance. I did not notice any performance problems. Solid 60 frames per second the entire time, and nothing went wrong. How about you?
Yeah, I have had no issues whatsoever. I would say my system, all my games were installed on a mechanical hard drive, not an SSD. And the initial loading of the game, wow, yeah. I like go and make a coffee or something, because the initial load, that first load, is heavy on a mechanical hard drive. I would say if you've got the space, definitely install this to an SSD, because you are really you're gonna appreciate it. You can appreciate the speed big time.
I can't say that I complain about that as much, but then again, I just finished Deus Ex, which had the most horrible load screens of all time.
If you play 10 hours of Deus Ex, you've done 9 hours of loading in 1 hour of game. It's horrendous.
You're exactly right. So I don't feel as jaded with the load screens because of Deus Ex. So thank you Deus Ex.
Thank you Deus for lowering the bar. But no, it is a lot of loading, and that's the only thing I would say as a caveat. Like, expect to load. It's like loading MMO. You know that first load on World of Warcraft when like you just have to wait forever. It's that kind of load. You're like, has it crashed? And also, I did have a weird there is a weird problem. The engine's not Unity or anything, but I did notice that if I had Spotify open, it wasn't launching, which was weird. So yeah, I don't know if that's a general problem with the game or just a problem with my system. But yeah, that was weird. I have to close Spotify before I load the game.
Yeah, I had a weird thing where it will try to load on one screen, but then go back to the original screen.
Oh yeah, every bloody time I load the game. I've forgotten about that. I've got in a habit now. I load it on one screen. When it's loaded, I just move it over. But yeah, it does that. It's like, start loading this one. Now I'm over here. It's like, I don't want you on that one. Just go back to where you was originally. That's fine. But yeah, these are all gripes that are part of Linux gaming, though, to be fair. These is like, there's lots of games on it, especially Unity games, where they're like, oh, you've got Live Streamer open, you can't load a game today. You have to like close certain apps before you load it and stuff.
Yeah.
Weird behavior in Linux. But yeah, I think it's also worth saying that we both played it on Linux. I haven't actually tried it on Windows at all.
I did try it on Windows.
On Linux.
And it does the same thing.
Did it run the same?
It ran exactly the same, and when you loaded it,
I'm not surprised. So it's the engine.
I have two monitors, and it tries to load on the second one, but then goes back to the first one. It's just really weird.
If I just stay on the left-hand monitor, that'd be great, because like it goes to the right-hand monitor in the end, and I have to move it over, which is just another hoop to jump through. It's like, change the monitor, sign into Paradox, load the game, make a coffee. It's my system. Yeah, I think Pillars of Eternity did the same thing though, so it might be an engine thing. So who knows?
Could be, but. At the end of the day, kudos on Paradox Interactive for making not just another great RPG or another game, but bringing it to Linux and having it actually work.
Before we go, though, I would like to ask, do you like there's certain games that people are going to be enjoying in 20 years' time? Like Knights of the Old Republic is a game that people are going to enjoy 20 years after it's released. Baldur's Gate, even though it's so slow, it's still a game where the story is strong enough that like you can come back to it now. Do you think Tyranny is a game that people will like go down in the history of like the Hall of Fame of RPG, or do you think it's something we'll play and move on?
That is actually a really good question. I will say that it will make its mark, but I don't feel like this is I just don't feel like this is a game that will stand all the test of time, because it's so gray. Like you don't get I don't feel like you get a very clear feel for like you've accomplished. I don't know. That's hard to explain.
It depends how it ends for me, I think.
Yeah.
But, I feel like Tyranny is a really good start, and the next game set in this world is just going to blow your mind. It's going to be just brilliant. But I think this game, even though I'm really enjoying it, I really like the game. I think the next one is going to be where you're going to go. This franchise is just getting better and better. It's the next one that's going to be like the Empire Strikes Back of the series, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know about you, but I don't know. I think this game is great. If it had some tweaks to, I guess, get you into the game without feeling like what the hell's going on, and you know, those little tiny missteps, it might have been as great as a Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah,
it's one of those things though. Like I said, I compared it to Divinity Original Sin earlier, and I think that in 20 years' time, Divinity will be the one people remember out of the two of them. If it was only the two, Divinity's the one that'd be remembered because it does weird and unique stuff. Where although this game's a really strong story, probably the strongest story I've seen in an RPG since The Witcher. Yeah, it doesn't do anything for the casual people that brings them into it different. And there's, mechanically, it's just an RPG, and that's fine for people who like RPGs. Yeah. Whereas Divinity's got that whole system where your companions can literally disagree with you and ruin the game for you, and you can kill anyone, like regardless of who they are, which are all things that make people go, I'll try that. You know, it's got that effect. And but I think this game's a much stronger story than most RPGs, and that's the thing that I'm enjoying personally.
I would say that is the strongest part of the game. The story is immaculate.
Yep. But yeah, I think we've talked long enough, haven't we? Have we gone on too long? Is it okay?
It's going to be a 50-minute video, but
you can edit that down to like 5. It's going to be fine.
Right. This is going to be a Total Biscuit type of video. But, you know, maybe we'll see how this works. We might have to do this again. That's been our review of Tyranny, and I appreciate HexDSL. Go check his channel out. He is the king of rambling and the gift of gab. Check him out.
Yeah. All the videos on my channel, I just hit record and go. There's no prep, there's no editing. I just record and go. And don't forget, guys, there's always an after the credit sequence.
Yeah, stay to the end. Stay to the end. But that's our look at Tyranny. Appreciate y'all staying this long. Hit the subscribe button. And
thanks for having me over.
Oh, we'll do it again. Matter of fact, guys, go check me out on his channel because I did I was on his podcast, X Penguin.
Yeah, I do the X Penguin podcast every 2 weeks on a Sunday. We do live on Twitch, and then we archive it on YouTube, as everything I do is. And Osirez joined us for an episode, and we talked for like 2 hours about Linux and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. We're out of here, guys.
Yeah, bye.